Welcome. My name is Nicole Green. I am the Alumni Engagement Manager for Graziadio. It's a pleasure to serve you all and kick off our Wisdom Wednesdays with Patty Beach. A few logistical things. The session is being recorded and will be shared out in our communications when it becomes available. We also will be taking some event photography. So if you are not comfortable being on camera, that's okay. Feel free to turn your camera off as we move through the session today. Without further ado, let me turn it over to Robin Doty, our Senior Director for the alumni team, with opening remarks. Thank you.
Welcome everyone to our inaugural Wisdom Wednesdays series. It's a thought leadership forum that focuses on organizational effectiveness and the human side of business. Today, we're joined by Patty Beach, founder of LeadershipSmarts and author of the book, The Art of Alignment, a practical guide for inclusive leadership and the Versatility Factor Profile, an assessment for gender intelligence and inclusive leadership. Thank you, Patty, for joining us today to kick off our Wisdom Wednesday series that's designed for alumni and our Graziadio community members that want to learn more about the human side of business. Patty is an inclusive leadership evangelist who combines leadership best practices and adult learning principles to make the hard work of inclusive leadership easy to master. She founded LeadershipSmarts to further a more conscious form of leadership that balances business acumen with socioeconomic and emotional intelligence, what Patty calls versatile leadership. Versatile leaders know that even when they have a strong vision, they must lead inclusively to foster alignment up, down, and across the organization and create a culture where all can thrive. Patty is also an ICF Master Certified Coach and holds 2 master's degrees, one in organizational development from the Graziadio School at Pepperdine, and a second in geology from the University of Tulsa. Prior to becoming a leadership expert, Patty worked as a geoscientist and manager leading initiatives in new technology and emerging markets in the energy industry. I've had the honor of working closely with Patty in her role as co-chair of the MSOD Alumni Council, and she's a true pleasure to work with and has a wonderful sense of humor. I consider her not only a friend, but also a true trailblazer in her field. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to today's speaker, Patty Beach.
Wow, Robin, thank you so much for that introduction. That just feels so great. And I just want to also commend you and your staff for pulling together these Wisdom Wednesday events. It's so important for our alumni to come together and to really learn from each other and to foster the goals of the Graziadio School to really help leaders do leadership for the world. And this has definitely been a commitment of my own in LeadershipSmarts. And so it's exciting to share with you what I have to bring to that work. So I'm Patty Beach from LeadershipSmarts. My company specializes in helping leaders through coaching and leadership development. And I'd like to share with you a little bit about my mission. I feel that my mission is to help leaders build a better world in a better way. And what do I mean by a better world? Well, every leader has some vision of a future different than the past that they're leading people to. If not, it's just status quo or it's just going backwards. It's important that leaders have that vision of what is that better world. So that might be new features they're adding to their software, or it might be, for example, with one leader I'm working with that wants to save the wetlands from North to South America. This just ginormous vision. And no matter what leaders I'm working with, I want them to do it in a better way. So what does that mean? First of all, I believe that inclusive leadership is the way to go. In the past, we've had patriarchal models where it's top down, selling and telling, command and control, just doing what you're told, but that just doesn't work anymore, and it probably never did. So when leaders operate in an inclusive way, such that every voice matters, and really believe that together we can solve those big problems, that's when you see the lights turn on. That's where you see teams go light on fire, and teams that won't burn out because they're a part of that solution. The other thing that I like to say about leadership is that formerly, especially in business, leaders were primarily focused on profits. And even in nonprofits, there's just so much emphasis on what are the donations and how are we using these funds. And I just think that profits is too small a God to serve. It's really important now that leaders are thinking through not only profits in their organization, but how does what we do impact the people within our organization and the people we serve? And how does it impact the planet? So in our practice, we're really helping leaders focus on all of those things at once, which is a more holistic view of their job. So my business has been around since 2004. I'm located in Boulder, Colorado, and I was a solopreneur, kind of an expensive gun for hire, but now I've got a team of 17 leadership consultants that blend organizational development and coaching, and to develop leaders at every level in the system. So folks who come from MSOD at Graziadio School will be familiar with what we learned about starting with yourself and working from the inside out, and then working on your relationships, working on your team dynamics, building a better organization, and even working trans-organizational level. So our coaches and OD consultants work at those different levels. Some specialize in personal development through coaching. Some focus on organizational development through strategic planning, restructuring, all of those kind of processes. And some trans-organizational development. How do you develop coalitions of leaders? Like if we're going to save the wetlands from North to South America, we're going to need a lot of leaders from government, from scientists that do that kind of work, from sports fishermen, all kinds of things. So that's what our consultants do. I'm very happy to report that I have 5 MSOD as part of my 17 leadership consultant team. We consider ourselves to be practical idealists that are strong in at least 2 disciplines. So one discipline is behavioral science. Most of us have a master's degree in organizational development, organizational leadership, organizational behavior. But many of us had prior careers in either STEM or business, and that really helps us to relate to our leaders and managers that we're working with. So here's some examples of some of the organizations that we've served. You can see that I'm kind of like Switzerland. I work with the government, I work with state governments, I've worked in healthcare, I've worked with nonprofits. So the work that I'm going to be bringing today about alignment is useful for all of these organizations. It's kind of one model, universal, that can be applied in any organization. So as Robin said, I'm calling myself an inclusive leadership evangelist. So one of the things that I feel is that my leadership is informed by 2 things. One is informed by my development in the MSOD program. Organizational development consultants are not the kind of consultants that come in and figure out the answer and be experts and tell you what to do. They get people involved. And that's what we learned in our program. And that is what I feel has set myself up for success. But I didn't come by that through the MSOD program. I came by it through my dad. And my dad was a person who believed that if you look for the good in everyone, you would find it. And so he could make friends with just about anybody. And he made amazing things happen as a result of that. And he really taught me that. And so I tried to bring that into my practice as just kind of an underlying philosophy. And as Robin had said, I spent 15 years in energy. I had a master's degree in organic geochemistry, and it was a really wonderful career where we were working on emerging technology. And a lot of times when you're doing something new like that, like for example, we drilled the deepest water well ever drilled in the Gulf of Mexico. We were the first horizontal well that was drilled. We went down a mile and then sideways a mile. You have to get all of these people from different disciplines to work together in order to make that happen. One person can't solve it. And if you don't get healthy deliberation about those things, then you will have some very, very devastating impacts, because especially with the new technology, we can see things like, for example, that deepest water well ever drilled did end up eventually becoming the Deepwater Horizon that blew up. And I think a lot of it was because there wasn't enough discussion beforehand about whether we were really ready to implement that technology in that deep water. So about halfway through my career, I switched to MSOD in 2000, and I learned about organizational development. And then I started studying coaching, and I became a master certified coach in 2004. So then I founded my company, LeadershipSmarts, and offered consulting, coaching, and training, primarily me doing it. But now I've grown to have this whole group and a body of work, thought leadership around alignment. And I developed a software company so that not only will you learn about alignment, but you could have software that will support that process. So a lot of this information got codified into 2 tools, which I've been working with: the Versatility Factor Profile, which is a leadership model that helps you to understand the degree to which you exemplify positive qualities of masculine and feminine archetypal strengths. And I want to just reinforce that that is totally independent of your gender or your gender identity. It is our core belief that when masculine and feminine strengths are complemented to one another, that we end up with stronger leadership. So what we see with leaders that have a high versatility factor is they have that balance of masculine and feminine energy in their leadership. And what they do is they come up with solutions that not only we know are good because of facts and data, but we feel they're good because we've run it through our emotions. And so it has that logic, the love and logic basically built in. So what I found in developing that profile was that it was very interesting and very helpful to many leaders. In particular, it was helpful to people who were working in environments where there was like a lot of women or a lot of men. For example, you'd have STEM professions where there's a lot of men and not so many women, or you would have education where there's a lot of women and not so many men. And this model was helpful to get people to understand what is that masculine feminine complement so they could speak to each other across those lines. But what I found was that it wasn't quite practical enough for people to practice it on a day-to-day basis. So I codified this way of leading in my book, The Art of Alignment, A Practical Guide to Inclusive Leadership. So you may ask, what is alignment? A lot of times when we think of alignment, we think of things like a straight line or an arrow that you like that. But the way I think of alignment is more like a machine where there's lots of parts working together. So I had sent my book off to several leadership gurus to see what they thought about it. And one of those leadership gurus was Bob Anderson, who wrote this magnificent book called Mastering Leadership. More people are probably familiar with Bob Anderson because he's also the leadership guru who developed the Leadership Circle profile, which is often used as a 360 profile in leadership development. And what Bob said is that alignment is this unspoken promise of leadership that will create this truth-telling culture where all voices are heard, and that will engage in co-creative exploration on topics that matter such that we row together and amplify each other's contribution. And I love that visual of it because a lot of times people think of alignment as something that locks them into things. In my experience, when we have alignment on a team, when we have a sense of where we're going together, it is that rowing together. You feel like both people have oars in the water and they're working together. And when you don't, it's like your oars are going this way and your boat's going around in circles and you're not getting anywhere. So Bob says that when you have alignment, that's what gets the best ideas implemented. Now, what I'd like to also say is that not only does it get the best ideas implemented, it also gets poorly thought out, unsound ideas off the table and dangerous ideas. So it's really important that we create this safety in an organization to do that. So this is, we go back to most leaders think, oh, of course I want to be an inclusive leader. Who wouldn't want to include your team? But it generally feels like this. It feels like you're just herding cats, trying to get people to decide something. Like you think, oh gosh, I'd love to include everybody, but how much time do we have? So what I tried to do is to create a new process called the Art of Alignment, which instead of feeling like herding cats, it feels more like driving a Tesla. Like once you put that in place, there's this language that people are using that allows them to deliberate things such that you're smoothly going down the road and everybody knows where they're headed. So the Art of Alignment is a skill set, and the goal of it is to achieve one goal, alignment, which means that we're getting a group of 2 or more players. Now this could be 220, it could be 200, it could be 2,000. But in my experience, usually when it's a group decision, it's generally 6 to 8 people, but it could be more. It could be 25, could be 100, could be a large system. And when we use 3 principles, 4 steps, and 5 C's, it's easier for us to get that Tesla feeling versus the herding cats feeling and get all voices in the room. So there are 3 principles to alignment. The first principle is called Iterative Co-Creation. Second principle is Shiva, and the third principle is Versatility. So today we're not going to have time to talk about all of these principles. So I'm going to mainly touch upon the Shiva Principle. But I just want to let you know that these principles of alignment, when you practice them, you generally come up with alignment organically and naturally. So very simply, iterative co-creation means that usually when we're going to make a decision, it takes multiple iterations. So if I bring up an idea, I want to probe with people what they like or don't like about that idea, give them some time to think about it, and then come back and make the decision. When we do it in multiple steps like that, it takes down the pressure in the chamber, and it allows for people that move at different speeds to process the idea. So for example, if I'm an introvert and somebody asks me, hey, what do you think about X? Sometimes you get that like deer in the headlights, like, whoa, I don't know, I need a little time to think about it, to let it settle. So when we use the principle of iterative co-creation, then we end up with a better sense of an outcome. And if we plan for that in advance, we know, okay, I'm going to present the idea to you. I'm going to find out what you think about it. I'm going to go offline. I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about it again. And then we're going to decide. It just makes everything go a lot easier. Now, I talked a little bit about the versatility principle. This is the idea that we want to balance masculine, feminine energy and leadership. Again, when we do that, we end up with ideas that not only we know are good, they feel good inside. So we'll skip Shiva for now because I'm coming back to it. So as I mentioned, there's 3 principles, 4 steps, and 5 C's. Again, also today, we're not going to have time to go into the 4 steps and the 5 C's of alignment, but this is a process that leaders can use for dialogue, where someone makes a proposal, then there's an exploration of these multiple questions in particular order. And when you do it in this order, it's kind of interesting just how much simpler it gets to make a decision. Because usually what happens is people will put an idea out there and then it'll just bounce all over everywhere, like a pinball machine, where you're batting ideas around and then you never really know what gets decided. So this 4 steps and 5 C's process is a really wonderful roadmap that when a leader uses this, either intuitively or implicitly or explicitly, and the whole team is following these steps, it is way easier to come up with an agreement. I've used the 4 steps and 5 C's in really contentious conversations. For example, I've used it with leaders that are trying to decide about opening or closing an office, or changing titles in an organization, or changing the size of the leadership team. These are the kind of things that you wouldn't think people would normally be able to decide without too much scruffle. And with the 4 steps and the 5 C's, they can do it. So again, I just want to reinforce, we're trying to achieve one goal: alignment. That's that truth telling. Everybody feels good about this. We're all rolling together because we're truly in it. Not because we're told to, not because there's a carrot or a stick that gets applied if we do or don't do it, because we believe in it. And how does that happen? It happens between 2 or more players. Leadership is never a solo sport. If I'm going to get people to do something, I'm going to need to get everybody involved. And then using these 3 principles, 4 steps, and 5 C's. So today I'm going to emphasize one of these principles because we got a limited amount of time and because this principle is really fun and it's easy to apply. Also, I have been told recently, I have to share this story, that I have one of the alignment practitioners as a part of my group also does personal development retreats. And so I went to a personal development retreat facilitated by this person. His name is Charles. And one of the participants there said, hey, are you the person who came up with Shiva? And I said, you know what? Actually, I didn't come up with it. It just kind of came into me. Like I actually feel like it almost got downloaded to me. And then I just shared it, like it was born through me. And he says, well, I don't care. I just want to thank you because it has changed my life. And I said, well, how did it change your life? And he said, well, I am a naturopathic doctor. And one of the things that's really important to me is to give people a good diagnosis, to connect with my clients. And now that I'm applying this Shiva principle, I feel like I'm doing better diagnosis and that I'm able to connect with my clients. And then what I see from this is that they're actually taking care of themselves better from the different prescriptions that I've given them. And he said, furthermore, I'm looking for a partner, a life partner. And I feel like applying the Shiva principle is helping me to connect to people so I can help people understand that even though I'm a doctor and I'm handsome and I'm out here, I need a good partner. Introduce me to that person. So it was really interesting to just hear that from him and to understand that Charles had been using this with a number of his groups. And so it's super exciting to think that this could change a person's life. So basically what Shiva is an acronym. And I like to call it also love through the logic door. One of the things that we have in the workplace is using the word love is kind of complicated, especially now that we have Me Too movement and things like that. So by practicing, breaking down the behaviors that create the right level of alignment between people into these 5 verbs: to see, hear, understand, value, and appreciate someone. So think about this. For me, I don't particularly care if you love me or not, if you don't get me. Like, if you get me and you love me, and you get me and you don't like me, that's kind of okay. So I really want someone to understand me from the inside out. And when you break it down into these different pieces, that's where you can get that. This is where we create psychological safety needed to reach alignment. Now, I want you to notice that you can give and receive Shiva even if you don't agree on something. So I can see you, I can hear you, I can understand where you're coming from. I can value you and appreciate you even if I don't agree. Now, I want to break this down for a second. So let's just start with seeing. I think it's really important that we get eyeballs on each other. This is why Zoom is a huge improvement over like teleconference calls. Like right now, it's exciting for people that I can see their videos. I kind of get, are they relating to me? Or are they not relating to me? Where are they at? I can see Jeb smiling, you know, so I can look at your eyes. And so there's something about being seen. I often tell the leaders that I'm working with, do you know the color of the eyes of the person that you're working with? Because if you don't, you're probably not looking at them. And this can be kind of common in our work environment that we avoid our eye contact. Meanwhile, there's so much connection that we get when we actually see people, when we look for their brilliance, when we look for their challenges, and we just take that in. So then we go to hearing. To what degree are we sharing airspace so that people are able to express themselves? Oftentimes, I was just in a meeting just now prior to this where I heard like radio silence after someone presented something. There was just this like deadness. So are we really listening? Are we listening for liveliness? Are we allowing people to speak? Is it okay for people to share their point of view? And if people aren't talking, we should be taking track of that. You know, is everybody being added to this conversation? As a facilitator, that's one of the things you want a bird dog. Who spoke and who didn't speak? Can we get everybody to speak? Can we get them to at least put something in chat so we can hear what they have to say? Then we go to understanding. Oftentimes when people speak, it's not that articulate, it's not that organized, it's not that logical. Guess what? As a leader, you're not off the hook. You need to listen underneath. What is it they're trying to say? And why does this matter to them? That's really key. So we can understand where they're coming from. Can we listen deeper than just the facts and the information they're sharing? And then we go to valuing. To what degree do we let that person, whatever they say, inform our judgment? Like if I come in, I can see you, I see you, and I hear you, and I get you, but do I really value you? Do I allow that to help me become better, to help me create a better equation? So as a leader, I have to put aside my ego and allow for what you say to inform my judgment. It doesn't mean I have to do it every time. I may stick with my point of view, but if I didn't even give it a shot, then I haven't really valued you. And people can feel that. Do you care when I share my ideas? And then we go to appreciation. So value is a lot like appreciation, but the nuance is different, is that when I appreciate someone, I'm expressing to them that I'm grateful that they brought their idea forward. So even if it was hard discussion, I can say, hey, you know, thanks for being honest about that. I know that was hard. There's a lot of tension in that conversation. Meanwhile, you know, that took courage. Thank you. So that's what we want to hear. Or even like, for example, in chat, you can reinforce like, hey, wow, good point, or ditto, or fantastic. You know, those kind of things are always nice to be receiving. So let's just chat for a minute about Shiva at work. So just to what do you think about? Am I really getting Shiva at work? Am I giving Shiva at work? What are thoughts about what difference it would make if there was more or less Shiva at work? Just any thoughts there people want to share? And I'm going to stop this so I can see where everybody is here. Any comments here?
I think it would help with retention if you had Shiva at work.
Yeah, who was that? Didn't see.
Oh, this is Angela.
Angela. Retention. So say some more about that. Why do you think it would impact retention?
Well, I think a lot of people leave because they don't feel valued and heard. And so once they feel part of a community, they feel understood, that there's other people that are relating to them, they want to stay with that organization. I know that one of my first jobs, I didn't necessarily like what I was doing. It was kind of evolving, but I really liked the people I was working with. And I think that's what it comes down to. And so usually you like the people you're working with if you feel understood, if you feel heard and valued. So I think it's just a huge piece to helping with retention.
I gotcha. Thanks for sharing that. What else might it do if we had more Shiva at work?
Hi, this is Kate. I feel like it really enforces the interdependency of a team, and it could enforce the cohesiveness or build the cohesiveness of a team, especially in that piece where you go from seeing and hearing and understanding to how do I use this to inform my judgment? And to me, that is like that dynamic piece where suddenly what you do makes a difference, because not only are you seen and heard and valued, but now you actually became a catalyst for a change for someone. And so what you do makes a difference, and that encourages participation because you know that what you're doing is going to go somewhere.
Yeah, I love that statement. What you do makes a difference. I can tell you right now, this is one of the most important things to people when they go to work every day. I mean, yeah, we come for our paycheck, we come to, have status, et cetera. But meanwhile, if we don't feel like we can make a difference, then it's just soul killing at work. You have a good idea and you're just sitting on it, or you don't feel free to share what you think. These are the kind of work environments that are super toxic. But when you have a work environment where people stay and they listen, even if they disagree, that they continue to connect with each other and they don't run away, that's where you see things picking up and taking off. So this word Shiva has become, for the teams I've worked with, a watchword. When I go in and I coach a new client, every single time we do a diagnostic. We take the members of their team and maybe their boss. Oh, sorry about that. And we have them plot out those members of the team. And then we look at to what degree are they sending Shiva down that pipe to those team members? What is the quality of their relationship? And really challenge them. Are they bringing Shiva to the table? And I can tell you that there are some leaders that I work with that they don't feel like that's their job. They feel like it's their job to tell people what to do, to hold them accountable, to, know what's wrong and right. And they don't understand that the quality of their attention makes all the difference in the world on the team. And not just the leader to the team, but every team member to each other. So when you bring a team together and you say, okay, this is the thing, Shiva. These are verbs we can do. We can say, oh, we need to respect each other. We need to care for each other. It's a little bit fuzzy, but do I see you? Do I hear you? Do I understand you? Do I really value what you have to say and appreciate you? That's getting more tactical in it. So I'm going to do that with you all in a minute here as we continue learning about Shiva. So here you have a team. And just imagine that this is Tammy, and this is Andy, and this is Caroline, and this is Carmen, and this is Joe. So Tammy and Andy, if they have a bad relationship here, there's an impact to Tammy and Andy. There's an impact to their likelihood of creating alignment between each other. Meanwhile, that negative relationship between Tammy and Andy impacts everybody on the team. Has anybody ever experienced that, where you have two people on a team that they've got this like, and they're not Shiva-ing each other, and then everybody's kind of like whirly-gigging around them to try to make things work? Well, this is very common in teams. A lot of times I'm called in on a team and they say, can you help our team get together, work together better and have better psychological safety? And meanwhile, it's pretty clear to me, it's not the team, it's really these two people who are just not really making the effort to provide Shiva to each other, or the leader who hasn't expected them to. It's like, well, they don't have to get along. They can sit here and hate each other and seethe, and it's A-okay because they're getting their work done. I'm like, guess what? That is actually not the best path to get the work done. Let's get really clear. What are the quality of our relationships, and can every single person be expected to hold that to a high level? And can we bring tools and resources to make that happen? So one of the things that I have people do is I have them make a map like this, and they put their name in the middle, and then they write all their teammates around. So I'm going to stop share right here. what I am showing you now is this map I made. See where it says Patty in the center here? Patty. And then all of my teammates, I have, these are my real teammates, Gwen, Doug, Roger, Alex, etc. And that's my beginning of my map. And then I want to go through and do the next step and color these connections. I call these connections pipes, the relationship. So for example, I see Allison on here, and Allison and I did work together as co-leaders of the alumni group for the MSOD. And so, you know, I'll use Allison as an example. If you imagine that there's a pipe that connects our relationship that Allison and I have is like a pipe that connects us. And I want to just kind of close my eyes and ask myself, what is the quality of that pipe? Is it green, meaning that we have this wonderful co-creative relationship? If we have a problem, we can bring it up. I know I can count on her. She's got my back. So we're able to work together really well on things. Like one of the reasons why we had co-chairs was we knew life, you know, you've got volunteers, you're going to get busy. Is Allison going to cover me? You know, that was one of the important things. Or is our relationship blue? That would mean maybe I don't know Allison very well. We haven't developed a relationship. There's this kind of reservation. I don't feel totally comfortable yet. And it's not because I have any reason to think that, but it just kind of feels that way. And then we have a third level, which is red, which means that we have a little, you know, clogged pipe, so to speak. Like we have friction, we don't get along, we disagree on how things should happen. So that would be called a red pipe. So then I would put on my diagram the color green or red or blue according to how I feel about that. So for example, on my diagram, I have Avonlea. She's one of the 5 MSOD people. I have a green relationship with her, but I colored it blue because I was just getting to know her. I would actually change that to green now because Avonlea and I have done a lot of work together. And then I have Roger, for example, here, green and red. So happens that Roger is my husband. We do a lot of work together. He helps me with the software. We have a really great relationship, but we have some pretty little heated arguments off and on. And I'm thinking, I want to do better at that. It's not just me and Roger, it's Roger and I that create this red pipe together. So to what degree can I really tangibly think about my relationships so that I can intentionally apply Shiva to those relationships? So I invite you to do that right now, to just take a second and take out a sheet of paper and maybe pick like 3 people that you feel like your relationship is dependent on in order to succeed or to achieve what you need to achieve in life. And then I would like you to just bring your attention to your heart and close your eyes and kind of feel, is this a green relationship? Think maybe your boss. Do I have a green relationship with my boss? Maybe pick a peer. You know, what's that color? And one of the things that's kind of nice about using a color is it activates our heart intelligence and our body intelligence, not just our intellectual intelligence. So do that for 3 team members. And then I would like for you to bring your attention to one of those team members that you'd like to have a better relationship with. You might want to take a look at the patterns. Do you have more green or more red or more blue on your patterns? This can sometimes be involved, have a gender relationship, or it could maybe be someone has a foreign name here and look at that. There's 3 guys and they're all red. Could there be a gender dynamic going on? Oh, look, there's 2 people with names that don't sound very Western. Is there an unconscious bias happening here where they don't speak English as well or something, and I'm not really relating to them the way I would with other people? So patterns can emerge when you draw a diagram like this. And I often ask my clients to do this very early in my coaching relationship with them, and then I have them snap it and send it to me. So we can even pick different people on that diagram that they want to develop relationships with, like a mentor or their boss's boss, that they want to grow into having Shiva in a relationship with, a real relationship. So now I want to talk a little bit about getting real with your Shiva. So I'd like to ask each of you to pick a person that you would like to have a better relationship with. It could be a green pipe, could be a blue pipe, or it could be a red pipe. But I'm going to ask these questions. I'm going to stop sharing here for a second.
And Patty, real quick, can you remind us what the colors distinguish, what they're kind of green, red, blue, just so we're all on the same page? I saw that question come up in
green
the chat.
means you have this productive, co-creative, awesome relationship. It's easy to work with this person, and like you have a problem, you no problem calling them. So a good test is, a good gut test is, do I feel comfortable calling this person if I've got an issue? You know, would they be somebody I would want to help me out? So then we have a blue pipe. A blue pipe is a relationship that's, you just haven't developed it yet. You don't have enough to know, so you might hesitate because you're not sure, you don't know that person very well. And then you have a red pipe where you're like, oof, I really don't want to call this person. I'm afraid they're going to take it wrong, or I'm not sure that they're going to see it eye to eye with me, or I'm going to convince them. It's going to be a heavy lift. That's a red pipe. Got it? All right. So pick your person, and I'm going to give you a Shiva quiz to see to what degree we can focus a lot on what is that person doing. That person's not giving me Shiva. They don't hear me. They don't understand me. They don't value me. Meanwhile, they're not here. You're here. So let's take a look at how you're applying Shiva down the pipe towards that person. Because even if it's a contentious relationship, even if it's somebody you don't see eye to eye with, like if you're Democrat and they're Republican, is driving you crazy or whatever it is, if you spin more Shiva down the pipe, you will find that it's easier to create alignment with that person. So here's the question I'm going to ask yourself. We're going to start with the S for C. And I want you to score yourself 1 to 5, 1 being low, 5 being high. So the first question is, do you meet often enough? Second question is, what do you know the color of their eyes? So 5 would be, yeah, I actually know it, or 1, I'm not sure. Next one is, what are their gifts? Do you see their gifts? 1 to 5. And do you see their struggle? 1 to 5. All right, so give yourself kind of a bucket score on seeing, 1 to 5. Now we go to hearing. Do you share airtime with this person, or do you feel like you're interrupting them more than you should? Do you write notes when talking to each other so you make sure you catch what they said? And do you include them in key decisions? Again, give yourself a score of 1 to 5. Now we have the U for understanding. Do you ask clarifying questions if you don't know what they're talking about? Or do you sit there and go, okay? Do you confirm that you understand the person by checking with them? Do you let the person know if you don't get them? Again, score 1 to 5. Now we have value. Do you suspend your judgment when you talk to this person? Have you asked their opinion about things that matter to you and to them? And do you include them in key decisions? And then we have the A. Do you let this person know, the A is for appreciation, when they've done a good job? Do you write thank you notes or text messages reinforcing what the person's done well? Have you told them what you admire about them? Score 1 to 5. So now I'm going to scramble you all into breakout rooms just to have a little quick dialogue with any insights that may have emerged from looking at your Shiva scores, really thinking through to what degree am I sending Shiva down the pipe to this person? And you might ask yourself, and with this insight of to what degree am I doing this, is there any ideas of what I might do to double down on Shiva or to expand my Shiva to this person to see if it might support creating more alignment with that person? So I would wonder if we might hear from a couple of folks what's coming up for them as they're thinking about Shiva as a principle to practice for themselves, or a tool to support a better relationship with someone that they want to have more alignment with.
Patty, I'll jump in.
All right, Dana, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for giving this talk. So I spoke with Mary Barrios, and she's just starting her graduate program. And she's also just started a new job. And she and I both picked the person that we want to have a better relationship with is our boss. And it was interesting because both of us felt like, wow, that's really tricky because we don't necessarily have the level of access to that person that we want to. And their communication styles sometimes make it a bit difficult to do the full Shiva, because as much as we try to understand, they're not necessarily sharing the information that we need. And it just came to me that maybe it's because of the disparity, kind of a power disparity
Right.
between the people. So
Yeah, I think that's a really good awareness to have, that power differentials do impact how our Shiva shows up. I can tell you, I coach a lot of very senior leaders, and I think sometimes they don't get very much Shiva because people are afraid that if they appreciate them, that they'll look like they're pandering to them. Or sometimes they don't want to admit that they don't get what the person's talking about because they're ashamed that it would somehow reflect badly on them. And I work with a lot of teams where I am encouraging them to use the 4 steps and the 5 C's to voice their concerns so that they can be understood. You know, you can't be understood if you don't bring it up. So I don't know, what did you get any insights about any of those letters that might be helpful for you in your situation with your boss? Or do you just feel sort of stuck there?
for myself is to listen more carefully. And Mary, if you want to jump in, she mentioned just having a better communication, but she should maybe tell you herself.
Yeah, Mary, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I don't have my video on.
Okay.
Yes, so Dana and I were talking about particularly bosses who, you know, they may communicate things differently to different people, or be ultimate decision makers. Particularly, like, I worked for a small business owner, and she had a large team, but decisions were made without really prefacing anything. So we'd all kind of find out when everything was about to.
I think we lost your audio. I just want to say that, you know, this is a really common dynamic that bosses will bring, you know, edicts or decisions to the table and just kind of throw them out there, and then they'll go, you know, ready to get that? Are we all okay? And everybody will go like this, and they'll give them the thumbs up, but it really doesn't, it's not what's really happening. A lot of times they're sitting there going, now, why are we doing this? And are we really going to have time to do that? And they don't feel that permission to be understood. So this is one of the reasons why I wrote the Shiva Principle in my book. I wrote this 4 steps, 5 C's, all of these principles and practices were designed not for organizational development practitioners per se, but for the leader to understand how important it is to provide Shiva. And what I'm hearing right now is that at least 2 of you are not feeling Shiva from your boss. This is not uncommon. And I think a lot of it has to do with the paradigm, that they don't necessarily see that as their job. Meanwhile, I can tell you, I've had a lot of bosses that have a lot of clients that have turned around poor performers just by practicing more Shiva with that person, you know, sharing with them what they need more, taking a little more time to make sure it's understood, allowing that person to not, I say it's not pushback. Pushback is, you know, BS in my opinion. And instead it's that person voicing a concern about what they're trying to do. It's not insubordination. You need to allow for those concerns to come up the chain. So hopefully you should give my boss a copy of my book or something. I don't know, maybe, or send them over to us for coaching. But this is a pretty classic problem. They're just very busy and they don't feel like they have the time to include people. And if they can get some confidence, they can do it faster, then generally they will make an effort. So what else showed up in your dialogues?
Patty, I have an observation. This is Shaw. Hi.
Hi.
I am looking at the different areas of Shiva, and I'm realizing for myself that I am better at some of those than others, that I can do some almost seamlessly, and others I have to work at more.
Yeah. And which is your sweet spot?
Appreciation and valuing. I
Mhm.
think those are areas that come very naturally for me. I think the understood is harder, especially for me to really communicate that I understand. And I think partly because sometimes I don't understand.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. So what else? What else showing up for people? I know, Allison, you've been using Shiva a little bit. I don't know if you might want to share any of your experience. Allison's one of our practitioners of our wonderful group.
I just think it's such a clean way to really reinforce what sounds a little bit on the initial take, sort of soft and fluffy, but really has a tremendous amount of depth and really is at the core of a relationship or a team functioning well together, because without really looking at those pieces deliberately and consciously and with intention, they often do get sort of hurried along. We hurry along. We don't really take the time to see, hear, understand, value, and appreciate. So I just have found that teams really do respond to it. Individuals in coaching really respond to it. And I personally have found it really valuable.
Thanks for sharing that. I just wanted to say that I do feel like for me that it has made a huge difference having this download in terms of my ability to work with clients to help them to understand this is the quality of attention. These are the things you need to do. And I found that Shiva is a kind of, like I said, love through the logic door, that it's useful for people, you know, even people who might seem sort of Asperger's. I don't know if that's probably not politically correct to say, but people who don't have a lot of social emotional intelligence, they can lean into Shiva and they feel comfortable talking about it. They feel comfortable talking about it to their teams. I'm seeing Shiva become a lingo that's being used in banking, in safety engineering, you know, on the offshore rig platform, you know, as a way to develop this path to alignment. Are we giving each other the quality of attention conducive to creating alignment? And so Shiva has become an interesting linguistic tool that has been super helpful to my clients. And I just wanted to share some of the clever ways that people are using Shiva now. It says it's evolving in its own way.
Yeah.
There's become this like Shiva lingo that starts to happen where you talk about let's Shiva up each other. That means let's provide each other with positive reinforcement for the things that we like about each other or what's being said. So when a proposal gets presented, can we Shiva up this proposal? Give this person positive feedback? How about I Shiva Pepperdine? Everybody like that? Give me a applaud or Graziadio. Woo! So you can use I Shiva, for example, I'm working with police force, I Shiva Blue, you know, how do we provide positive reinforcement or give someone a Shiva shower? A Shiva shower is where everybody would take a minute, write a positive word about a team member, like I could say, Jake Jacobs, you know, and we could say, okay, everybody, Jake Jacobs is writing a book. It's just coming out. Let's give, you know, Jake some Shiva about that. So write something that you read in that book that you like, write a positive thing. And then everybody writes it in the chat and then we hold off and we say, okay, go, boom. And then Jake gets this shower of like awesome stuff about his book coming out. You can also give somebody a Shiva bomb. This is when you're like really emphasize, like, oh my gosh, I just love how much, you know, seeing these folks at my presentation, what it really means to me, you know, so I could maybe call one person out and say like, Nicole, you just spent all this time to make sure I had a great success. And then lots of people showed up and I'm just so thrilled that we got to do this partnership together. So that's like a Shiva bomb, like you're really hitting them with it. You can also give someone a spoonful of Shiva. Let's say you have something negative or critical to say. I always say, okay, before you hit that kind of contentious topic, maybe a spoonful of Shiva would be helpful to just make the medicine go down, right? And you can even practice Shiva life, which means that you get up in the morning and you think, I want to be fully present for my life. I want to see, I want to hear, I want to understand, I want to value, I want to appreciate. This actually changed the way that I eat my food when I sit down at a table, or how I go with this into this work that I'm doing with you all. As I see you, how can I totally Shiva all of you for showing up at this presentation, being here for me? This just means the world to me, to be somebody that Robin and the Graziadio would put in front of all of you all. You know, that's a big honor. So I really feel appreciative that they're creating that opportunity. So you can think, I Shiva you, let's Shiva one another. I need a little Shiva. Could you please Shiva me, please? So you can even use it basically any place where the word sugar goes in, you could put Shiva in there, it pretty much works. But I was to say, get off the struggle bus and get on the Shiva bus. When you start Shiving, you will find your life will get a lot easier. So I wanted to go back here to one of these slides here and let you all know that I have a free webinar coming up. So I can put this in the chat where you can sign up for alignment webinars. This is where you would go into more detail, where you can learn the other 2 principles and the 4 steps and the 5 C's and how this is used in business. These free webinars are going to be Saturday, May 29th and June 12th from 10 to 11:30 Mountain Time. So we're covering the 3 principles, the 4 steps, and the 5 C's of alignment, and how alignment can support inclusive leadership in your organization, and also how you might become an alignment practitioner like some other folks that we've added to our team.
And please stay in touch with us. We are on social media. Connect with us. Pep Connect is a great resource. Like I mentioned, LinkedIn, the networking forum, I will share that out. I'll give you a couple days, probably tomorrow evening, I can close it out and share that with you so you all can continue your conversations. I know the breakout rooms were not necessarily as long as you might have liked, but feel free to connect in all these different platforms and reach out to our office if you have any needs or additional support that you may need. We are here for you as your Graziadio family. So thank you again. Thanks for today's session. We're grateful that you joined us. Be well.
Patty.
Thanks so much.
So great to see you all.